All right, let's talk about Dunedin. We're gonna do pros and cons of Dunedin, Florida. Here we go. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel, where we make these videos for you about what it's like to live and move to the whole Tampa, Florida area. Today we're talking about Dunedin. We're gonna talk about pros and cons in Dunedin, and in Dunedin and everywhere else around, we want to be your real estate choice. So give us a call, text, or email anytime. We'd love to hop on a Zoom call and just process your situation and see how we can best help. I'm out here in the middle of these oak trees, and right now there's some kind of caterpillar that hangs down from a string and gets like, I got walked through a bunch of them when I was walking out here. Anyway, okay, so this is pros and cons of Dunedin. We've done this video before. We've talked about pros and cons. We've talked kind of overview about Dunedin. We've talked about why people love it. We're gonna get into some more little details today. And let's start with the pros. Number one is appreciation. So whenever we moved here, we looked for homes in Dunedin for a while. Didn't really find the space we wanted, didn't really find at the price we wanted. So we bought our house in Tarpon. The thing is, home prices since then have just gone up and up and up and up. Appreciation in Dunedin is so good. Partly because people really like it, partly because it's surrounded by other population, so it can't really grow out. It's a really unique spot. So let's just look at the kind of house we were looking at in 2020. We were looking around $350,000 for like a 3-bedroom house. Let's look at what that 3-bedroom house is selling for now. So in that time span, almost 4 years, Dunedin has seen almost 100% appreciation. It's pretty wild. Not only have home values appreciated, if you bought back then, you're loving that now, but this area is super charming. So maybe you're hit or miss on old houses, but a lot of them are just super cool. And maybe you don't really care about a cool downtown, or I'm at the community center right now, like out in the front, because I like these big oak trees. This kind of stuff is super charming. Dunedin is a very charming town in so many ways. And we'll come back to that. Like, that's why people fall in love with it after visiting one time, and then it creates this kind of unique market down here. Number 3 pro is the downtown. Downtown, there's awesome food, breweries, events. On Fridays, there's a big market, and then there's a couple bigger annual events. It's super cool. But my favorite thing about downtown is that the Pinellas Trail goes right through the middle of it. So if you have kids, or if it's just you wanna go like walk down there, you wanna ride rollerblades or skate or ride a bike down that trail, you're in the middle of people like sitting in outdoor dining areas, people out there running with their dogs. It's just a very community feeling downtown, and not like a high-rise kind of downtown. It's a really unique spot. Pro number 4, Dunedin is pretty walkable, especially compared to the other towns around it. So you might need to drive a little ways to get to like the edge of downtown. Like sometimes we'll park our car at Weaver Park, you see it here on the map, and then we'll take the Pinellas Trail to downtown. So we'll play at the park with the kids for a little bit, and then walk downtown, have dinner, walk back up to our car. Gets us out, gets us engaged a little bit more. It's fun to walk with the kids and play at the park and walk on the trail, and it's all just kind of right there. So you can drive to a very walkable area really easily in Dunedin. But I've also had friends that lived closer to downtown. And if I didn't have little kids, walking a mile to downtown would not be a big deal. With little kids, you end up carrying them, or you end up like carrying them and their bike and their bag, and it's too much. And with a pregnant wife, I need to carry all this stuff. So no, let's drive for now. Or I'm more like, let's just play with the chickens in the backyard. Let's not go anywhere. I've become more and more of a homebody. But there's a lot of walkable areas. So those friends that lived a mile away from downtown, so many times I was at their house or something, we would just walk downtown, go have a drink, go have a bite. Super cool. Pro number 5 is the beach. So you do have your own beach here. Dunedin Beach is a public beach along the causeway. Then out there you have Honeymoon Island. Then you can take a ferry over to Caladesi Island. Super cool beaches. The ones at the end you have to pay to get into. It's a state park, or if you have like a state park pass, you can get in. But then just south of here, you have Clearwater Beach, and just south of that, you have Bel Air Beach. All those are within easy reach, especially since you're on the west side of US 19. You're kind of tucked back in here in a more quaint, quiet, neighborhood style area. Pro number 6 is that if you live in Dunedin, commuting to multiple places is pretty easy. So Curlew Road, just on the north side of Dunedin, goes right over to the bay. You can get over to Tampa pretty easily just on that road. Also, if you need to get north and south up to Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, or south down into Clearwater, St. Petersburg, it's doable. It's a kind of a painful drive on US 19, and your commute times are gonna slow it down. Here, I'm turning this pro into a con. Usually, realtors do the opposite. They turn the con into a pro, but commuting isn't horrible. There's definitely areas around, like if you went 2 towns further north into Tarpon Springs, commuting into Tampa becomes a whole different animal. It really does. So from this spot, it's a little more central. You're a little more within a reach of a few different places pretty easily. Maybe I should have just put that on the cons list, because now we're into cons. Con number 1, this is the biggest factor for me. I brought this up to somebody recently. They visited, they fell in love with Dunedin. I'm like, okay, now imagine how much you want to go back to Dunedin and visit. They're like, yeah, we can't wait. I'm like, but so many people feel like that. So if you live there, you got all these people coming in all the time wanting to visit your town. Now, maybe they just love it, it's charming. Maybe they're coming to watch the Blue Jays. Maybe they're coming to watch the Phillies that are in Clearwater just over on US 19, but are still really close to Dunedin. Maybe they just love the beach here. Maybe they love the downtown. Whatever it is, like, people really like this area from the outside, so they are drawn to it. And you know what it's like in your town if you have some kind of tourist attraction where you're like, all of a sudden, like, all these people are in my town. What are they doing here? I felt that way in Tarpon sometimes with like First Fridays, or even just seeing people at the sponge docks. I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are all these people here? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of a tourist attraction. So Dunedin overall is kind of a tourist attraction, so you have to deal with that a little bit. Con number 2 is competition. Just like we talked about that appreciation going up, some people don't mind the higher prices. They're willing to pay for it. And since Dunedin is kind of small, it's like 40,000 people, it's not that big geographically, it becomes pretty competitive. The amount of homes available here are pretty finite. Con number 3, the whole area is kind of like a neighborhood, but there's not really neighborhoods. Like, I pull into my neighborhood and it has like a big concrete wall. It's not gated, but there's a wall on the exterior of the neighborhood. Like, it feels unique once you pull into it. Dunedin just doesn't have spots like that. Now, you're gonna get on to me, there's a couple, but there's just not many to choose from, and they don't feel that unique. Now, the whole town kind of makes up for that, but if you're looking for kind of a self-contained neighborhood with a park and with those kind of things, it's kind of hard to find that here. Okay, con number 4, the houses are pretty old in Dunedin. You know, a lot of them are really 50s to the 70s. That was when a lot of this area was built. I can look across the street here, that one's late 80s. There's a couple others that are newer, but that's 40s, 50s, like, a lot of them are old. And you can see even driving through town, a lot of these houses are older. Now, you may love that, but older houses come with quirks. They come with a lot of quirks. As I've been renovating this house from 62, I see the quirks. Maybe they're not insulated, they have old windows, they have irregular sized doors. They have, irregular depth vanities in the bathroom. So if you just want to replace it with something off the shelf, like, it's just not always as simple. My 60-year-old house has an old cast iron tub. To get that thing out of there, you have to cut it in half and take it out in pieces. So we just recoated it instead. Those kind of quirks you just got to deal with these older houses. Now, they do come with charm and they have kind of more unique feels. And even like my older house, like, has the planter, and when you first walk in, we have plants in it. Those kind of quirks can be nice, but they definitely come with headaches. They do. Next con, one of the headaches they come with is higher insurance costs. They just do. The trusses on the roof aren't attached to the walls the same way. The pitch on the roof isn't as favorable for storms. You know, maybe just the elevation, the way that they poured the slab, they didn't do slab on grade. They actually just did it on the ground. So all those kind of things make the insurance more expensive. And then the final con, this area is close to the water. Now, it's not as low as some other places, and it's not as low as being right on the water, but it still does come with some flood risk. Because of how close we are to the coast, storms impact this area pretty intensely. So that's just something you have to keep in mind. Now, a storm doesn't always hit the coast like that. A storm doesn't always just settle and rain and rain and rain. It usually keeps going. But who knows? Storms are pretty unpredictable. I love that people just think they know how it's gonna go. They say that on the news and they talk like they know what's gonna happen. And they stop talking once it hits because it's different than they said. And growing up in Oklahoma, I thought about these things a lot too. Like tornadoes, you're like watching the news for the tornado, and then the tornado sirens go off, and then you take cover for a minute and you're like, oh, it's fine, we're good. it's like, oh, it wasn't even close, or it didn't even touch down actually. We're doing the best we can to try to figure out what's going on with these big storms. Now, a hurricane, you do have a lot of notice, you do have a lot of time to prepare and get out and those kind of things. But still, all that to say, this area has some of that risk. You're often going to be, called to evacuate during a big storm or those kind of things. All those are just cons you'd have to deal with. But this is pros and cons of Dunedin, Florida. Very loved, very charming, unique area. I'd love to hear other questions or comments you have about Dunedin. Have you visited? What did you think of it? Would you like to live here? And call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.